Hi, I'm Kevin Thompson. Welcome to Beyond the Fundamentals. In this video, we're going to use the pattern of romantic projection in relationships to help us explain and understand spiritual growth journeys, including delusion, disillusionment, and especially the concept of what is often called deconstruction, though that term can be very misleading. Religious romantic projection is unavoidable. Everyone goes through it, but not everyone comes out of it, which is what kind of makes it dangerous. Understanding it is the first step in setting yourself up to escape its clutches. Romantic projection is a phenomenon of the mind where individuals project their desires, their expectations, or ideals onto a new partner during the early stages of a relationship. This often occurs unconsciously, and it's influenced by personal experiences, unmet emotional needs, and fantasies about love and relationships. The key characteristics of romantic projection are idealization, fulfilling unmet needs, selective perception, you don't see everything, you just see what you want to see, overinterpretation, and it's usually temporary. Romantic projection will last anywhere from 6 months to 2 years in a new relationship, and then after that is when the real relationship starts. Romantic projection is influenced by attachment styles, previous relational experiences, and unresolved personal issues. It often stems from a human tendency to seek connection and validation, which can lead to projecting fantasies of the perfect partner onto someone new. So it has challenges and risks that come along with it. Among those are disappointment. When the projected ideal doesn't align with the partner's actual behavior or personality, it can lead to frustration or disillusionment. Missed red flags. Focusing on an idealized image might cause individuals to ignore warning signs of incompatibility or unhealthy dynamics. And unrealistic expectations. Projected expectations can put pressure on the partner to live up to an unattainable standard. A healthy approach to avoid pitfalls of romantic projection, psychologists recommend somatic awareness. Be aware of your own projections and assess whether they align with your partner's real traits and actions. So somatic awareness is going to be including knowing how your body is feeling and where it's feeling it and whether it's anxiety or fear. Be very much in touch with that. Have open communication. Discuss expectations and perceptions with your partner or maybe with a confidant or a therapist or something like that. And time, allow the relationship to develop organically, giving time to truly understand each other beyond initial impressions. Now, the real relationship does not actually begin until the period of disillusionment has run its course. This duration is typically 6 months to 2 years, and the process is gradual. It's not all at one time. Physiologically, humans are very much a part of the animal kingdom. At a basic physical level, your body wants to do everything an ape's body wants to do. It's our capacities for shared fictions and psychotechnologies that practically separate us from the rest of the animal kingdom. So let me double click on these shared fictions and psychotechnologies just for a second. Shared fictions are things like monetary currency, property lines, corporations, verbal labels, etc. These are not really real, but they are great. They're a great aid in coordinating civilization. The downside of shared fictions is that we also have the capacity to invent shared fictions that aren't so useful. We can invent them out of thin air. And we can make up arbitrary word combinations which have no correlates in reality, but can be powerful when shared with an in-group. Most of Christianity that we experience in the Western Hemisphere, probably anywhere, is in this category. It is comprised of shared fictions, especially when it's emphasizing some kind of system, something like this. It's just a bunch of semantically disambiguated propositions into a shared fiction that's elaborate, and the in-group loves it. Now, psychotechnologies. What are psychotechnologies? The most common psychotechnologies are language, using it right now, literacy, the ability to read and write, and numeracy, the ability to count and do math, those sort of things. Those are psychotechnologies. We can do them. Most animals can't do them, at least not very well. Psychotechnologies leverage the innate capabilities of the mind in a way that brings higher degrees of complexity within the grasp of apprehension. Okay? So while these capabilities, such as shared fictions and psychotechnologies, while these capabilities are amazing and very useful, they also enable us and tempt us to create reality bubbles that exist only in people's minds and are reinforced when they are shared in agreement with others. This is where religious romantic projection comes into the picture. Religious romantic projection is when people interact with the idea of God, but instead of interfacing with real God, they are interfacing with a fantasy projection of God that exists only in their mind and in the minds of those who share in the fantasy and the shared fiction. When a person converts to Christianity, or when we say they do, in the nominal sense, they are converting to a romantic projection, not actual Christianity. It's kind of impossible to do so. It's not until the person is disabused of this projection that being a Christian is even possible. People should not fear this phase or think that it's necessarily evil or bad. It is almost universally a necessary step on the path to actually being Christian. Now, note on the side here that I never said that anyone was on their way to hell until they're disabused of the projection. I know some people heard that, but that's not what I said. People always hearing things that I don't say. When people move laterally from like Calvinism and Arminianism to provisionism, or from Baptist to Methodist, or from covenantal theology to dispensationalism, or from Catholicism to the charismatic movement, or from Mormonism to Presbyterian, or from New Age to Christianity, or from Wiccan to Baptist. Now all these, they could go in either direction, one way or the other, and it wouldn't be any different whatsoever. They are not leaving the romantic projection phase of religion. They are simply making a lateral move from one religious romantic projection into another. This is what Paul referred to as children being tossed to and fro with every wind of doctrine. Now, the metanoia, it gets translated as repent in the Bible. The metanoia, commended so many times in Scripture, is a departure from the projection level altogether. It's not a lateral move. One must cognitively operate over and above projected paradigms, not within them. Religious romantic projection phase is what we've referred to in the past as Mammon Church. We have a whole video on it. Be sure to see that video if you haven't seen it. Unfortunately, nearly all churches in Western churchianity are in this category, in the projection Mammon Church, and that includes the one that you are in. Now, we've talked about stages of faith in the past on this, stages of development. Okay, faith can be a misleading term for people who are religious for sure, but faith here is used in the sense of connection to the ground of being, not affirmation of a bunch of religious propositional truth claims. And if you ask the question, Fowler's model breaks it up into 6 different levels. And if you ask the question, what do institutional churches offer or afford for people at each developmental stage? The sad answer is that they really only have things for stages 1 through 3. Churches do not offer anything for stage 4, 5, or 6. There's nothing for them there. Okay, so what does that mean? When a person starts to develop to that level of capacity and awareness, they suddenly stop feeling like they fit in at church. They stop feeling like there's a good church. Like it used to be easy to find a good church, and now I can't find one, and there's nothing here for me. And they find themselves not really getting a lot out of it. Now, this is not your fault. Okay, some people say just buckle down and love the pastor and do the thing anyway. And really, we need to have something that is for people who are past stage 3, and the simple truth is that we don't. If you're sitting in a church somewhere and you're finding that it's not really working out for you, you're not getting something out of it like you used to, and it just kind of seems fake and like everybody's saying lines in a play, that's because you're probably at this phase and it's time for you to go. Okay, and that's why Beyond the Fundamentals exists, exactly for people like you, like us. Okay, that's why we're here. That's why we're doing what we're doing. Just as in romantic projection, religious romantic projection has the same characteristics of idealization, fulfilling unmet needs, selective perception. Everything seems so wonderful for, maybe 20 years when you're in this church. Overinterpretation and hopefully it's temporary, although sadly it is not temporary for some people. Once the temporary phase runs out, which is sometime typically between the ages of 30 and 40, could be earlier for some people, could be later for most people. Sometime, if it hasn't happened by 40, probably not going to happen. Okay? So when they get to that stage of kairos or liminality, if you're dealing with somebody who's 40 or over, typically, here's the 6 different kinds of people that you're going to have. You're going to have the Peter Pan. They never leave the romantic projection. They stay a child. Then you have the ostrich. They stick their head in the sand. They're in denial. They ignore reality. And I know the research shows that ostriches don't actually do that, but take the analogy anyway. You have the imposter. They stay for the benefits. These are people like John MacArthur and John Piper who probably know that Calvinism is a sham, but they make a good living off of it, so they keep doubling down on it. Okay. You have the cynic. They've been spoiled by the philosophy of the romantic projection, and they turn to something like a cynical version of atheist, and then they throw the baby out with the bathwater. That's what most people are afraid of happening to them when they hear deconstruction. That's really the only version that they know about. And I'm not saying that all atheists are made this way or are the result of that process. That is just one road to atheism. So make sure you understand me when I say that. The 5th version we have is the paralytic. They are aware but not able. Okay? And then what you want, the 6th kind, is the sage, where you are aware and able. You become Giuseppe Scampato, the sea turtle over here who finally makes it to adulthood. Very few sea turtles make it to adulthood. Out of 1,000, maybe one, anywhere between 1 and 4 will make it to adulthood on average. And few there be that find it. Narrow is the gate, and few there be that find it. And this is what we want. We want to make it to the sage stage. As the adult is to the child, so is the sage to the adult. So there is another, once you're an adult, there is another growing up phase that you have to do. And it's pretty easy to spot when you have full-grown adults who aren't there yet. They're still in the child phase of adulthood, if you will. So that's what we're aiming for. We want to be that 6th one, but those are about 6 different kinds of people that you're going to meet after 40, after the religious romantic projection phase should be over, chronologically speaking. The crossover point of liminality means like a doorway, a crossover point, threshold. The crossover point of liminality during this time of personal kairos is what people encounter when they go through what is often called deconstruction. This crossover point cannot be avoided or circumvented for anyone who will truly follow Christ. In other words, this kind of has to happen. You have to be in the cocoon of the projection for a while, and then you have to find your way out. It has to be that way. The chicken has to come in the egg, and then it has to hatch out of it. The butterfly has to be in the chrysalis, and then it has to come out of it. You have to spend some time in the romantic projection phase before you are ready to come out of it. It must occur. One cannot follow Christ when they are left of bang on this narrow gate. Okay, when I say the phrase left of bang, what I'm referring to is left of bang can refer to any significant event or moment that can occur. For example, it is always an event that caused major change characterized thereafter by being referred to as the focal point of before and after. What do you mean? Like in New Orleans, people talk about before and after Katrina. So Katrina would be the bang in that instance. People talk about before and after 9/11, when the World Trade Center and the Pentagon and Flight 93, all those things happened. People talk about before and after COVID. Oh, but before COVID it was this, after COVID it was this. Those are points in time where things change in an irreversible way, and it's a before and after component. And so the bang issue here would be the moment or the period of time where you are leaving the religious romantic projection and you're going to go turn into one of these 6 things, right? Most people, especially religious leaders, all the leaders in the isms, such as Calvinism, Provisionism, Arminianism, Dispensationalism, etc., are either left of bang or they are imposters or Peter Pan, okay? Perhaps some have the festering neoteny of being an ostrich, but that environment is never where sages reside. You never find sages in the romantic projection, in the religious romantic projection. Now, the religious romantic projection is the farm team for genuine Christianity. If you don't know how farm teams work, a baseball team will have a farm team that's a professional baseball team, but they're not quite in the MLB yet, major leagues. They're not in the major league. Hockey does this too. It's the prep squad, but it's not the only game in town. You can actually go through a different kind of projection and then wind up finding Christ after that as well. Okay, so the projection phase, the religious projection phase of Christianity, where they have all the doctrines and the systems and all that, that's not real Christianity. Christ must be found after that, okay? After you come out of that. There's a meme floating around the internet where Todd Friel is saying, if you're no longer a Christian, it's because you never were a Christian in the first place. Well, this statement is half right, but Todd Friel is left of bang. He has never left the religious romantic projection of the Hebraic Megazeus and entered genuine Christianity. He's not done that yet. Derek Webb, Tyler Vela, Paul Maxwell, Josh Harris, Megan Phelps, Abraham Piper all left the religious romantic projection and have yet to enter Christianity, and they may be inoculated from it, unfortunately. Can't tell. Got to give these guys some time and find out. They're spoiled. They may be spoiled. Hope not, but maybe. Those Christian spokespersons who are against deconstruction, and I'm going to show you a few in a minute, are still in the religious romantic projection phase and have not yet approached the point of liminality. Like Sean McDowell, Alyssa Childers, they are still in the projection phase of their Christianity. And it wouldn't matter. I think Alyssa Childers came from Wiccanism or something. She's still in the projection phase. Okay, she made a lateral move, not a vertical move. I recently saw a video where Sean McDowell and John Marriott were discussing the concept of deconstruction, and I think it's called set adrift, deconstructing what you believe without sinking your faith. And what they're really trying to get people to do is, in the terms that we're using in this video, they're really trying to get people to stay in the projection, is what they're really trying to do. They don't understand how this works, that this necessarily needs to happen to people before Christ can be found. Before the Christ in you can be realized, probably a better way to say that. So don't get hung up on the exact words that I'm using, okay? I know y'all are going to say, Jesus said, suffer the little children to come unto me, okay? I'm not saying people can't come to Christ. What I'm saying is that the beginning of it is a projection phase. And you might actually be able to avoid the projection phase if you get there early enough and do not get religious instruction along with it, because that will ruin it. They thoroughly demonstrated, Sean McDowell and John Marriott, they thoroughly demonstrated that they have no idea what's going on here and that they are firmly rooted in the religious projection phase themselves. They were scrambling to keep the projection alive in the video and viable, trying to keep that projection alive and viable, much like the death throes of someone nearing the end of their senescence, at the end of their life. Alyssa Childers, I don't know if it's Alyssa, I'm not sure. I'm not trying to mispronounce it or be disrespectful. I just don't know. Also has decisively demonstrated that she does not understand human development or cognition and does not know what's occurring when deconstruction visits a person. Like Optimus Prime said to Sam Witwicky, destiny rarely calls on us at a moment of our choosing. Okay, it comes. It comes when it comes. All right? That when it's time to hatch from the egg, when it's time to come out of the cocoon or the chrysalis, it's time. Okay? She is also still thoroughly left of bang and ensconced in the projection phase of religion. There must come a point in time where the person realizes that their current worldview is insufficient to address the reality that they are encountering and that it affords them no purchase for favorable movement. That is when the doorway of liminality is approached. A person must ride the vehicle of life circumstances down the railroad of their worldview until they run out of tracks or slam into a brick wall. If they haven't done that, then they are still in the romantic projection phase of their religion, and they may never leave. And it doesn't matter how many lateral hops they make in the projection phase. Okay, you can get out of one, hop into another just fine. We depicted this movement, this circle here is the edge of one's worldview. The edge of the circle would be like the edge of one's worldview in our videos on provisionism back in 2023. The blue circle is your religious projection. The motorcycle is you. As long as you have plenty of real estate to ride around and make decisions, then stay in the projection. It's okay. If you're listening to this and you have no idea what I'm talking about, you're probably in the projection phase. Everyone who's left the projection phase, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You don't need this explained. And but you're probably like, oh, this is what I'm feeling. I didn't have the words to put to it. Okay. But if you have no idea what I'm saying, you think I'm way off my rocker, you're still in the projection phase, and it's okay to stay there. Enjoy it. Stay there. Okay. Just like a child, you ever wish you could go back and enjoy your childhood before you had to take on adult responsibilities? Enjoy the projection phase. It's okay to stay there. Ride it out. Use up all that real estate. It's not good to try to pick unripened fruit to make people come out of the projection phase before they are ready. It's like making a chicken hatch too early or a butterfly come out before they fully formed. You'll have to wait until circumstances bring you to a situation that cannot be adequately addressed from within the projection. Like what you think is feasible, what you think is right and wrong, all the rules. You come across something that does not work for the circumstance that you're in. Okay? You're choosing from the lesser of multiple evils, and there is no good choice. And the good choice you know you're supposed to make, you can't. Okay, that's the clue. That's one of the clues that you're at the edge of your projection phase, and it's time to step out. It's only when you're completely out of options in the projection that you are at the kairotic exit doorway of the projection. Okay, so if this video doesn't make a lot of sense to you, turn it off, go watch other channels, enjoy things. When stuff stops working and you run out of answers and the rights and wrongs that you're trying to follow don't work anymore, then come back, okay? We will be here. It's not a big deal. It's not a bad thing or a horrible thing. It's just not time yet, and that's okay. Now, when that time comes, when you're at the edge of your religious romantic projection circle and there's nowhere to go, literally everything will be trying to prevent you from getting to that door and crossing the threshold. Literally everything. Okay? Once the threshold is crossed is when it becomes possible, or it could be the other way around, like Christ comes in and says, peace, be still, something like that. So once the threshold is crossed is when it becomes possible for the first time in a person's life for them to experience genuine Christianity. The real relationship cannot start until then. I'm not saying that there's no interaction. Just like in a romantic relationship, there is interaction and the other person is there, but the real relationship hasn't started until this occurs. Notice that Revelation 3:20 is spoken to those who are already in the church. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come into him and will sup with him and he with me. And then remember in Colossians 1:27, we just wrapped up our Colossians series. We have a 20-part Colossians series. If you haven't seen it, you definitely need to watch that. It's got a lot of stuff in there that you don't want to miss. To whom God will make known that what is the riches of the glory of this mystery among the Gentiles, which is Christ in you, the hope of glory. Christ in you. And it's impossible to experience that from within the projection phase. Western churches are the religious equivalent of pornography. Probably pornography for men, maybe something like romance novels for most women. Now what they do, pornography in these churches, they keep your focus without disabusing you of whatever you've projected into it. When a man looks at pornography, he can imagine whatever disposition he wants to, that she's nice and friendly and all these kinds of things. And you don't even know that person. So they keep your focus without disabusing you of whatever you project into it. The projection is actually amplified by the system. Just as social media optimizes for time on site, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, that try to keep you engaged, churches or porn optimize for time on singular focus, keeping one's attention and experience successfully segregated from base reality. Now, when it comes to relationships, you need to have experience in base reality with real people. If you're looking for a wife, you need to talk to real women and have real relationships. If you're looking for a husband, you need to talk to real men and have real relationships. Probably not romance novels. Okay, and church does the same thing. It serves as a buffer between the person and reality. It's interesting to hear a church person look at somebody who's addicted to something like, say, a drug or alcohol or something, and they'll say, well, why, that's just separating you from reality. Why don't you come back to reality and put that stuff down and be sober minded? And they don't realize how hypocritical that is, because their religious romantic projection is doing the same thing for them, just like a drug, and they are just as addicted and can't put it down. Insulates you from reality, which is not what a good paradigm should do. Keeps you segregated from base reality. In this way, they are precisely addictive substances because they give to us a pleasurable, secure, reassuring feedback loop that does not make us more responsive or interactive with reality. And that's what alcohol does for somebody. It gives them a nice, reassuring feedback loop that insulates them from having to think about or deal with their problems. But guess what? The problems are still there, and the alcohol is not helping. And I was just talking to somebody on the phone today who there's problems in life, there's dysfunction in families, and the religion has been there the whole time, insulating us from reality, and guess what? It's not helping. And now we have all kinds of issues and problems and things we don't understand coming up in the generation under us. And guess what? It's because we've been using religion to insulate ourselves from reality rather than actually engage with reality. One of the reasons this channel exists is to try to get us back to re-engaging with reality so we can start addressing these things as we should. Christians who are addicted to the projection funnel and supposed atheists who are steering to avoid the same projection funnel are essentially committing the same error. Okay? Christians who are in a religious romantic projection of Hebraic megazeus and all that stuff, Calvinism, provisionism, and the atheists who are rejecting that God, the Christians are incorrect for basically paying homage to a false God that doesn't exist. And the atheists at that level, who are basically stage 3 and are also in their projection phase of life, they are correct for denouncing and not accepting that version of God, because that in fact is not God, and they are correct for recognizing that. But they share the same myopic view of reality that prevents them both from seeing the reality of the matter. Okay, so a Christian, stage 3 Christian, stage 3 atheist, a projection Christian, projection atheist, doesn't matter what the content is. There is God, there isn't a God, because they're not even neither one of them are talking about the real God, so it doesn't matter. Okay, and both of them can come out of that phase and perhaps discover the real Christ. If you're thinking that what we're describing is similar to Plato's cave, you are correct. But there is more to it. The illusion illustrated by Plato's cave is the case for everyone, not just for religious people. But religion merely adds an additional unnecessary complexity that comes with presuppositional interpretations built in, all before anyone ever saw the real thing, not just the shadow. And the idea in Plato's cave is that you're seeing the shadows on the wall, but you've never gone out into the light to see what's really going on, what's really casting those shadows. And so you don't want to interpret those shadows before you've seen what's causing the shadows. But what religion does for us is it gives us an interpretive overlay, an interpretive mechanism to overlay on the shadows, but we still haven't seen what's causing the shadows. So it's not helping us. It's actually adding an additional layer of complexity, which is further blinding us, further insulating us from reality. Religion adds a further fake projection, which serves as moral confinement and an interpretive overlay. Interpreting something without direct experiential contact is something we should all retract from. Employ epistemic humility and suspend judgment on all matters with which you do not have first-hand participation. And you might also be thinking this is kind of like maybe the Matrix with the red pill and the blue pill, and people who are left of bang have never even been offered the red pill or the blue pill, and they're still in blue pill land. On this channel, we've done a lot of videos explaining why Calvinism is wrong or unscriptural. The problem with me doing that on this channel is that while it's helpful and correct to some degree within the scope of propositionalism and with a projection of Hebraic megazeus, those kinds of videos reinforce and bolster the inertia of the projection phase of religion, And even though they're out of Calvinism, they stay in the projection phase longer, and I might have inadvertently actually prolonged people's projection phase, which is something I did not want to do, but it's also something I did not know about at the time. So we can easily get people out of Calvinism all day long, but the more important and more meaningful goal would be to get them out of propositionalism altogether and religious projection altogether, instead of just swapping out one delusion for a less dissonant delusion. See Matthew 12:45, for example. You get the one demon out, 7 worse ones come back in. And it's almost better that the projection phase is more absurd and abrasive, because you might be more likely to come out of it if it is. Where are you on your journey? It's easy for me to produce a short one-size-fits-all video, but if you would like these principles and domain fluencies to be applied to your personal situation, you can book a paid one-on-one session with me. The way to do that is to go to the website, beyondthefundamentals.com, scroll down to where it says book a one-on-one consultation. And if you like these videos and would like to support the channel, please go to the donate page at Beyond the Fundamentals website, which is also linked below. If you'd like to see more content like this, consider doing that. Go to beyondthefundamentals.com and click on the donate tab in the menu. And we're going to conclude the video here. Thanks for watching. May the Lord bless you, and good day.